We meet John and Sarah, who are painting their nursery for the arrival for their child and choosing color. John says she is proud of Sarah for enduring all pain to have the baby through IVF. We see Sarah is a professor who teaches in college, and John works in real estate, and he sees Alyssa. He used to date Alyssa before, but he is now happily married to Sarah and isn't comfortable around Alyssa. Alyssa asks to go him with for showing a house, but he doesn't agree, and at home while playing piano, Sarah feels labor pain. She calls John, but he doesn't answer as he is busy with clients and rushes to hospital after seeing his phone. They come to know they have lost the child, and Sarah says she can't stay in this house anymore. They start searching for a new house, but are unable to find a house which fits their budget and needs. The broker suggests to visit her friend Emmett, who might have something for them, and they agree. They drive to a large house and meet Emmett, who invites them inside and shows the house. They both like the house and praise the architecture, and Emmett invites them for drinks to talk to them. Sarah says she wants to move somewhere quiet and start fresh, and they all cheer for this and have drinks. Emmett shows them the items he found in the house and how he restored them and added to a wall. He asks them what if this house was theirs, and both of them think of it like a joke and laugh. Emmett offers them to stay the night and think about it, and says this house offered him peace once. At night they talk about how amazing this house is and make love, and in morning get ready and go down. They see Emmett has gone, and left them a note saying he is leaving the house to them free of charge. He has only one condition, that the cellar door must never be opened, and they go and check it. Sarah is excited to take the offer, but John feels something is wrong, and the brokers asks their decision. John says no one gives house like this for free, and Sarah says this is their dream house which they cannot afford in their life. All their savings are going due to IVF treatment, and says she slept very well last night and felt relaxed. John agrees, and they sign the contract and feel very excited and happy and move their luggage here. They redecorate the house, and John sees how happy Sarah is after her miscarriage, and later they have a party for their family and friends. Everyone enjoys at the party, and Alyssa and other colleagues from work come to congratulate John. John isn't happy seeing Alyssa and goes to talk to her and says she shouldn't have come tonight. Alyssa says she was worried for John after what happened with Sarah and wanted to check if he is okay. John says he is fine and says it's over between them and she can't meet him like this, and someone calls him. Alyssa is sad to hear this, and John goes out and sees a man standing with fuel and goes to talk to him. The man says he must burn the house before it destroys his life, and then goes away, and John is confused. Next day, Sarah meets her new neighbor Catherine, who welcomes her and hope they will at least stay here. Sarah feels confused hearing this, and John goes to office and see everyone looking at him. He comes to know Alyssa has filed sexual harassment against him, and he is being suspended temporarily. He is quite angry and asks why did Alyssa come to his house then for the party if she felt that way. John comes home, and Sarah says she has decided to work again, and John is unable to tell her about his suspension. He remembers about the conversation he had with Alyssa and others about the cellar door. Next day, Sarah goes to work and John goes for running, and 2 weeks pass and his friend Stephen calls and tells him to tell Sarah. John sees Sarah is finally happy and can't tell her and decides to message Alyssa, but doesn't do so. He tries to open the cellar door and even brings a crowbar to open, but injures his hand. Later, Sarah feels John is upset and asks him, and John says how would Emmett know if they open the door. Sarah says they can't do this, otherwise they will lose this home, and gets upset seeing John wants to open the door. Later, John leaves Alyssa a message to meet him and sees a door under the stairs and thinks of an idea. He goes and gets the blueprint of the house and comes to know the previous owner, Paul, had also requested for it but never came to pick it up. He comes to know Emmett lived there 25 years ago, and one day his wife and daughter left him and went. John comes home and studies the blueprint and then opens the door below staircase and searches for way. Sarah is teaching her class, and John finds a wooden floor and opens it and goes down to find a steel gate. He starts drilling a hole in the wall, and Sarah comes home, and John hears her and quickly climbs out of there. Sarah sees John is home early, and he says he finished his work, so came home, and at night he gets a call. Alyssa has called him, and John requests to meet her, and she says to come next day at their favorite place. They meet in underground parking, and John asks why she filed a case against him and what she wants. Alyssa says she wants to have a life with John and have kids, and asks why he keeps coming back to her. John says he does love her, but he will never leave Sarah for her, and Alyssa says he can't use her like this. She threatens to tell Sarah about this, which makes John angry and say if she talks to Sarah, he will kill her. Alyssa goes away, and next day John goes for a run, and Sarah is decorating the room when she feels unwell. She vomits and decides to do a pregnancy test and waits for the result and finds she is pregnant. She is happy and finds the blueprint under the bed and comes to know what John is doing. She goes and finds the entrance below staircase and decides to go down, and Alyssa has come to the house. Sarah goes down and sees the gate, but her torch battery goes out, and Alyssa enters the house and finds no one inside. Alyssa calls for Sarah but gets no response, and Sarah gets new batteries and goes down without hearing anything. Alyssa sees their pictures together and comes to know Sarah is pregnant and feels sad and jealous. Sarah has found that John was trying to get in cellar and hears some noise above and comes out and sees the door is unlocked. John is talking to Steven, who asks him to wait out his suspension, and John sees Alyssa's car. She comes to know she was at the house and decides to follow her car and returns home at night. He comes and sees Sarah is crying, but she tells him about pregnancy and they both hug each other. Sarah shows him the secret door, and John says he didn't go in the cellar and is sorry, and Sarah is angry. She says they can't risk anything now since baby is coming, and John apologizes and closes the hole. Next day, they both plan what color the wall will be, and John gets a call from office from the HR. She tells John his name has been cleared in the investigation and he can join office again. John goes back to office, and Steven says no one believed Alyssa's story and knew she was obsessed with John. John asks about Alyssa, and Steven says she hasn't come back to office and sent a message to relax for a few days. At night, while redecorating the room, John removes a painting and sees a hole in wall and inspects it. He finds a bullet in it and feels scared and says 25 years ago Emmett's family had disappeared. He believes Emmett has killed them and buried them in cellar, and the bullet is a proof and why the door is closed. Sarah doesn't believe this and says the police might have found something if they were murdered. She asks him to leave it alone, and John agrees, and next day John comes to know Alyssa is missing. Her car was found abandoned, and Sarah meets Catherine and asks about the family staying before them. Catherine says Paul and his family were happy when they moved here, but then fought and separated. She feels happy for Sarah and says she daily meets John when he is running an afternoon, and Sarah wonders how that is possible. She sees the news of Alyssa's disappearance and looks worried, and at night asks John about it. John says the police are searching for her, and Sarah checks his laptop when he is bathing and reads emails. She comes to know about the sexual harassment case and checks his phone to see John called Alyssa. John thinks about the bullet and finds a box on wall with same bullets and talks with Sarah about it. Sarah says it doesn't mean Emmett killed his family and then purposely left the bullets here. John wants to look in cellar, but Sarah says no, and they see the police has come to inquire about Alyssa. John invites them in, and they want to speak alone with him and ask about the harassment case. John says they dated few years ago and then broke off, and Alyssa tried to get back, but he refused. She filed case against him, but he was cleared and says he called her and meet her last week in parking lot. He asked her to drop the case, and she got angry and left, and this was last time he saw her, and Sarah hears all. The police ask where John was the day Alyssa disappeared, and Sarah comes and says he was with him here. She lies and the police leave, and John was sorry for not talking about the case, and Sarah says she knows. She smelled jasmine flowers on John when he came home one day, and Alyssa also had gifted them same. She says the day they lost the baby, John was having sex with Alyssa and hence didn't answer the phone. She knew about his affair but chose to remain silent for their marriage and their new baby. John feels guilty, and Sarah goes away, and John thinks about the cellar and decides to meet Paul. He goes to his house and meets him, and Paul says he also stayed in the house for free, and the house looks beautiful at first. His marriage started failing, and he started drinking and saying lies, and the house ruined his life, and now he is alone and getting divorced. He sees the house brings the worst out of humans, and he can escape it by opening the cellar door. Sarah covers the bullet hole, and John comes back home and tells her they need to leave the house. He says he has been a liar and bad husband but can't do this anymore, and Sarah says she can't leave. Sarah says they deserve this house, and John gets angry and says this house is a cage, and goes to the cellar. He says he is going to open it and starts breaking the lock, but Sarah hits him on head and stops him. Later, John wakes up and Sarah says he can't open it because he isn't prepared to see what he will find. She shows Alyssa's phone and says the day Alyssa came to their house, she heard some noise above. She took the gun and went up to find Alyssa waiting in a room and asked her to leave, but she refused. Alyssa told her she didn't deserve this, and in anger Sarah shot her 3 times, and Alyssa fell down and asked for help. Sarah thought about the baby and her life, and decided to kill Alyssa, and pressed her neck and killed her. She then wrapped her body and dragged the body down and threw in the hole and hid the body there. She then drove Alyssa's car, which John saw and started following, but went the wrong way and lost it. She then left her car and broke her SIM card and emailed the company asking for some time off. She burned her clothes, but 1 bullet went to the wall, which John found, and that's why she couldn't allow him to open the cellar door. John is shocked to hear this and says a good lawyer can save them, but Sarah picks up the gun and asks him to stay. Sarah says she will blame him for Alyssa's murder and he will go to jail since he covered the hole and his prints are on it. The police know about his past relation with Alyssa and blame him for murder because of the case. She will shoot him and say she did this in self-defense and stay here with the baby, or asks John to be quiet and live with his family here. John has no choice and agrees, and sometime later they throw a baby shower party and invite everyone. They receive a letter from Emmett, who congratulates them for the baby and gives them the key to cellar. He says it's their choice now whether to open it or not, and Sarah takes John for a picture. We see John is not happy and leading a false life with Sarah pretending to be happy.